What happens when European visitors discover that some of America's most useful comforts cost absolutely nothing? Would they still hurry home after enjoying free refills, open libraries, generous rest stops, and everyday conveniences that quietly make life easier? For some, the real culture shock begins when they imagine losing all of it. If home keeps charging for what America gives freely, would returning still feel like going back? Or like giving something up? Endless refills. The first American surprise does not arrive beneath a stadium's giant scoreboard or beside a highway filled with pickup trucks. It arrives quietly at a restaurant table, usually inside a glass so large that it could qualify as emergency hydration equipment. Before many European visitors have finished discussing the menu, the drink is already cold, full of ice, and apparently protected by an unwritten American promise that no cup should ever remain half empty for long.
Apparently here you can just fill up your, what's it called? Your drink, just unlimited. So I'm gonna give it a go.
Times in a row, go to Fontaine and get cola. I was thinking, he's cheating, and I was looking like he's stealing things. But then somebody tell me, hey, it's free if you bought one, you go and take another. My mind was like, no way. Like in Ukraine, it wouldn't work, never.
For years, international headlines have often presented the United States through its most difficult subjects. Europeans repeatedly hear about high prices, social tension, political arguments, and every national problem dramatic enough to dominate a television screen. By the time World Cup 2026 brings them across the Atlantic, some arrive prepared for an exhausting country where every convenience comes with an extra fee. Then a server returns, fills the glass again, and adds absolutely nothing to the bill. That tiny moment can dismantle a surprising amount of secondhand opinion.
Guys, I'll tell you something. There is free cup of water, just like this, and you get your cup of drink and you can just refill it as much as you wish without paying anything. That's one of my favorite things in America.
When you find out that America has free refills.
In cities such as Paris, Rome, Amsterdam, or Copenhagen, ordering another soft drink normally means purchasing another bottle or glass. That system is perfectly reasonable, and nobody considers it unusual at home. A drink is ordered, consumed, and paid for. The relationship ends with admirable European efficiency. In many casual American restaurants, however, the original drink behaves more like a season ticket. As long as the meal continues, it keeps coming back. The cultural difference is larger than the price of the beverage. Free refills express an American instinct for abundance, comfort, and hospitality that foreign coverage rarely manages to capture. The customer should relax, enjoy the conversation, and stop measuring every sip as though preparing for a transatlantic drought. The server watches the falling waterline with the concentration of a Texas rancher watching a fence because an empty glass appears to be a problem that must be handled immediately.
One of my favorite things is watching Europeans discover what free refills are in the US. Here you go. This is Europeans, compilation of Europeans discovering free refills for the first time in the States.
Thanks so much.
You're welcome. This is one pancake?
Yeah, welcome to America. You know, I used to be little like you.
There is something warmly American about that attitude. Hospitality here often announces itself through excess, yet the excess is practical rather than ceremonial. Nobody delivers a speech about generosity. They simply bring more iced tea. The message is hidden inside the service. Stay comfortable, take your time, and enjoy being here. That becomes especially meaningful during the World Cup, when visitors are already surrounded by enormous stadiums, long road trips, enthusiastic crowds, and strangers willing to explain everything from tailgating to barbecue sauce. Free refills may seem like the smallest part of the experience, but they reveal how American culture works at ground level. The welcome is often casual, immediate, and much kinder than the version seen through a distant news broadcast. After several weeks, the habit becomes dangerously easy to love. Returning to a restaurant in London, Milan, or Brussels and being charged for the second drink may suddenly feel like an emotional betrayal, even though it was completely normal before the trip. America has quietly reset the standard, one glass at a time. By then, the Europeans are no longer debating whether America was misrepresented. They are wondering whether their own countries can install free refills before the return flight departs, because going home without them now feels like giving up a recently discovered constitutional right. Culture costs. Nothing. Most travelers expect the expensive part of Washington, D.C. to begin the moment they step through a museum door. After all, these are not small local exhibitions displaying 3 farming tools and a photograph of the mayor. The Smithsonian holds spacecraft, presidential objects, masterpieces of American art, scientific collections, and artifacts that explain how an entire country argued, invented, failed, recovered, and kept moving forward. Yet at many of its most important museums, the admission price remains exactly zero. That is the kind of American surprise no dramatic headline prepares people for.
Did you know that if you have a Bank of America credit card or debit card, you can get into a bunch of museums for free on the first weekend of every month? You can click the link in the description to see the list of all the museums you can go to, but today I'm going to the Sullenberger Aviation Museum in Charlotte. Normally tickets are like $26, but today it's free, so let's try it out.
Are you looking for free things to do in Houston, Texas? The Houston Museum of Natural Science offers free admission every Tuesday from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. Tickets are limited, so make sure to arrive early.
The Smithsonian Institution operates 21 museums and the National Zoo, with most of its famous locations gathered around Washington. General admission to the Smithsonian museums in the capital is free, although some popular buildings may require time passes. This means a family can stand beneath historic aircraft, walk through galleries covering African American history, study natural wonders, and explore the nation's political past without watching the day's budget disappear before lunch.
Come with me to explore the Smithsonian Museum of American History, home of Abe Lincoln's hat, Dorothy's ruby slippers, and even the original R2-D2. This free museum is located on the National Mall in Washington, D.C., and is one of the most popular must-see museum stops when visiting the capital.
Across Europe, many excellent museums also provide free access, especially major national institutions in London. However, some of the continent's most famous cultural landmarks, including the Louvre in Paris, the Prado in Madrid, the Rijksmuseum in Amsterdam, and the Uffizi in Florence, normally charge for standard entry. There is nothing unfair about that arrangement, because preserving great collections costs serious money. The contrast simply makes Washington's museum culture feel unusually generous in both size and ambition. America is often described abroad as a country where everything has a price tag attached. Then visitors arrive in the capital and discover that the nation has placed some of its most valuable possessions behind open doors rather than premium tickets. That decision reveals a side of American patriotism that foreign television rarely shows. It is confident without needing a marching band, and proud without demanding that visitors purchase the souvenir package first. The experience becomes addictive because free entry changes the way people behave around culture. When a ticket is expensive, a museum visit starts feeling like a military operation. Everyone arrives early, studies the floor plan, and tries to extract every last cent of value before their feet surrender. At a free Smithsonian museum, people can enter for an hour, leave for lunch, return another day, or spend 20 minutes staring at one object without worrying that they have financially failed the rest of the building. That freedom makes history feel approachable. Children can become curious without their parents calculating the cost per minute. Travelers can follow an unexpected interest instead of rushing toward the most famous exhibit. A museum stops behaving like a luxury attraction and starts functioning more like a public living room, although this particular living room happens to contain spacecraft and dinosaur bones. During World Cup 2026, that detail could change how many European visitors understand the United States. They may arrive expecting commercialism at every corner, yet find one of the world's greatest museum networks quietly welcoming them for free. After several afternoons inside the Smithsonian, returning home may come with an awkward new demand: either make more national treasures free to visit, or kindly extend the American stay until further notice. America's free living room. Some countries build impressive public spaces and then quietly place a fee at the entrance. America often does something far more charming. It gives people a card, opens the door, and lets them stay as long as they need. That is why the American Public Library may be one of the most underrated free experiences waiting for World Cup visitors in 2026.
This is the most beautiful public library in the USA, or at least it used to be. Well, let's go take a look around. This is the Huntington Beach Central Library.
Did you know there's a hidden creative workspace inside the LA Public Library? Inside, you'll find podcast studios, recording rooms, photo shoot spaces, and even green screen filming that you can use for free.
A library in the United States is rarely limited to shelves and silence. Across the country, public libraries offer free access to books, newspapers, Wi-Fi, computers, study rooms, children's programs, language classes, job search support, local events, and sometimes even tools, musical instruments, sewing machines, or museum passes. The country has more than 16,000 public library outlets, meaning the idea is not confined to New York, Washington, or Los Angeles. It reaches suburbs, small towns, farming communities, and places where the nearest major attraction may be a very determined squirrel in the parking lot. That reach matters because it reveals something deeper about American culture. The library is treated as shared civic space, where people are allowed to enter without first proving that they are wealthy, important, or prepared to buy something. In a country famous for shopping malls, giant stores, and endless advertising, the public library behaves like the calm relative at Thanksgiving who does not ask anyone to spend money. Europe also has excellent library systems, and countries such as Finland and Denmark have built some of the world's finest public libraries. Yet access rules differ from place to place. In several German cities, for example, borrowing privileges may come with a modest annual membership charge, while visitors in other countries may need local registration or proof of residence. The American model also has local requirements for borrowing cards, but simply entering, reading, using Wi-Fi, attending many events, or resting in a public library is commonly free. For European visitors traveling during the World Cup, that can become unexpectedly valuable. Between matches, long drives, crowded fan zones, and hotel check-in times, a library offers air conditioning, clean restrooms, charging outlets, internet access, and a quiet place to recover. It asks for no coffee order, no table reservation, and no explanation for why someone has been sitting beside the same outlet for 45 minutes. That freedom is strangely addictive because it gives people something modern life has made increasingly rare: permission to exist somewhere without becoming a customer. The experience also challenges the version of America often presented abroad. International coverage regularly focuses on what Americans cannot agree on, yet thousands of communities continue funding places where strangers can learn, search for work, bring their children, use technology, or simply sit safely indoors. That is a practical kind of national generosity, built from local taxes and maintained by librarians who somehow manage to answer questions, fix printers, organize story time, and keep the peace without wearing a sheriff's badge. By the end of a long World Cup summer, some visitors may stop seeing the American Library as a building full of books. It begins to feel like the town's shared living room, except nobody asks them to take off their shoes or help carry the groceries inside. Once people become used to that kind of welcome, returning home without it may require serious negotiations. Samples gone wild, America has found a remarkably effective way to turn grocery shopping into a small public festival, place a cheerful person beside a folding table, hand out hot food on tiny paper plates, and let curiosity handle the rest. During World Cup 2026, many European visitors may enter an American warehouse store expecting to buy snacks for the next match, only to discover that the shopping cart has somehow joined a tasting tour. Free samples exist across Europe, of course, especially during product launches, food fairs, and supermarket promotions. The American version feels different because it has been woven into the regular rhythm of warehouse shopping. At Costco, whose United States network includes more than 600 warehouses, sample stations have become such a familiar part of the experience that some shoppers quietly plan their route around them. The official purpose is simple: introduce products and encourage sales. The unofficial result resembles a very polite buffet where every serving is the size of a poker chip. That scale changes the mood of shopping. In supermarkets across Paris, Berlin, Brussels, or Milan, customers generally move with purpose, select what they need, and continue toward the checkout. A large American warehouse encourages wandering. One corner offers a bite of pizza, another presents a new cheese, and somewhere near the freezer aisle, a small cup of soup is waiting like it has personally requested a meeting. What makes this habit so appealing is not the amount of free food, because nobody is leaving with enough chicken bites to survive winter. The attraction comes from the lack of commitment. People can try something unfamiliar without buying an entire package large enough to feed a Little League team. That removes the small fear of wasting money and turns shopping into discovery rather than routine. This is a deeply American form of persuasion. It does not begin with a long sales speech or an employee following customers through the aisle. The food makes the introduction, while the shopper makes the decision. That casual confidence says, in effect, taste it first, and then we can discuss the family-size box. The samples also create an unusual social atmosphere. Strangers pause together, exchange quick opinions, and occasionally circle back with the innocent expression of someone who has definitely never seen that mozzarella stick before. Nobody announces that they are taking a second sample. American warehouse etiquette relies on mutual silence, much like eating the last cookie at a family reunion and hoping Aunt Linda was looking elsewhere. For visitors whose image of the United States was shaped mainly by stories about aggressive consumerism, this gentle little ritual offers a more human picture. American retail can be enormous, brightly lit, and capable of selling enough paper towels to supply a small government, yet it still makes room for a warm bite offered without pressure. That is why the custom becomes memorable so quickly. A free sample turns an ordinary errand into a moment of surprise, humor, and possibility. By the end of the World Cup summer, European visitors may return home expecting every supermarket aisle to offer a tiny appetizer. When nothing appears beside the frozen vegetables, the silence could feel unusually personal. Parking feels illegal. One of the strangest American luxuries does not come with a waiter, a museum guide, or a cheerful employee holding toothpicks beside a tray of sausage samples. It is simply a rectangle of painted asphalt waiting outside a restaurant, supermarket, pharmacy, church, hotel, or roadside diner, usually without demanding a separate payment before anyone steps through the door. For many European visitors arriving during World Cup 2026, free parking can feel almost suspicious. In central London, Paris, Amsterdam, Copenhagen, or Milan, leaving a car somewhere often requires reading signs, checking time limits, opening an app, finding the correct payment zone, and hoping the vehicle has not accidentally entered a financial relationship with the city. Those systems make sense in old, dense urban areas where streets were designed centuries before automobiles appeared. Space is limited, public transportation is strong, and every curb has several people competing for it. The United States developed differently. According to the Federal Highway Administration, Americans travel more than 3 trillion vehicle miles in a typical year, and daily life across much of the country was built around driving. That history created a landscape where parking is frequently included as part of the destination rather than sold as a separate service. In suburban America, a grocery store without a large lot would look as unfinished as a Texas barbecue plate without napkins. The appeal goes far beyond saving a few dollars. Free parking removes a layer of low-level stress that many people do not notice until it disappears. Nobody has to calculate whether an extra 15 minutes inside the store will cost another fee. Families can load children, bags, coolers, folding chairs, and enough World Cup snacks to supply a midfield without rushing back to a ticking meter. That convenience becomes especially addictive during a long American road trip. A traveler can stop at a diner, enter a supermarket, walk around a shopping center, or take a break at a highway rest area without turning every pause into a small financial decision. The car is not treated like an unwanted guest, standing outside with an unpaid tab. It is simply part of the journey. Europe offers plenty of free parking outside city centers, especially around retail parks, smaller towns, and rural areas. So this is not an absolute divide. The difference appears in how normal and widespread the expectation feels across suburban America. A large parking lot is often understood as part of customer service, quietly saying, "Come inside, stay a while, and do not let the curb ruin your afternoon." Foreign media tends to describe American car culture through traffic, fuel consumption, and giant vehicles. Those concerns are real, yet they miss the emotional side of the system, the extraordinary ease of moving through ordinary life. America often gives people room before asking what they plan to do with it. After several weeks, that freedom can become difficult to surrender. Returning to a European city and paying nearly as much to park as to buy lunch may suddenly feel like the meter has developed expensive personal ambitions. By then, visitors may have one request for home: keep the historic streets, the beautiful squares, and the excellent trains, but please find room for one generous American parking lot. Rest stops feel rich. A long American road trip has a curious rhythm. The highway stretches for hours, the landscape keeps changing, and then a blue sign calmly announces a rest area ahead. There is no ticket booth waiting at the entrance, no cashier guarding the restroom, and no expectation that travelers must buy a sandwich before earning the right to sit down. People simply pull in, park, stretch their legs, use the facilities, check a map, and continue toward the next state. For many European visitors traveling between World Cup host cities, that simple routine may feel surprisingly generous. The United States has roughly 49,000 miles of interstate highways, connecting major cities across a country whose distances can make a drive from Paris to Brussels feel like the warm-up lap. Along many of these routes, publicly operated rest areas provide free parking, restrooms, drinking water, picnic spaces, travel information, and room for tired drivers to pause without making a purchase. Facilities vary by state, and some locations are more basic than others, yet the underlying idea remains powerful. Stopping safely should not require a commercial transaction. That principle says a great deal about how America understands the open road. Driving is treated as movement through shared national space, and rest areas function like small civic promises placed beside the highway. They tell travelers that the country expects them to cover great distances, but it also accepts that human beings eventually need a bathroom, a bench, and 5 quiet minutes away from someone asking whether they missed the exit. In countries such as Germany, France, Italy, Belgium, and the Netherlands, motorway service areas are usually well developed, although restrooms at some stations may charge a small fee or operate through voucher systems. European service plazas often provide excellent food, fuel, and clean facilities, but the stop is more closely tied to a commercial business. In the American system, many state-run rest areas remain separate from that expectation. Nobody cares whether visitors purchase coffee because there may not even be a store available. That absence of pressure creates the appeal. Modern travel constantly asks people to spend money for the privilege of being comfortable, while an American rest area often behaves like the dependable uncle who leaves the porch light on and never asks why everyone arrives so late. The cultural value becomes clearer during World Cup 2026, when thousands of visitors may drive between cities separated by distances that barely make sense on a European map. A journey between Dallas and Houston is longer than many international trips within Europe, and crossing Texas can feel like the state has quietly added another Texas behind the first one. Free rest areas make those distances more manageable because every pause does not become another calculation involving parking fees, restroom charges, and an obligatory snack. Foreign coverage often portrays American roads through congestion, gasoline prices, and oversized vehicles. Those subjects deserve attention, yet they leave out the kindness built into the system. The country understands that mobility also requires recovery, and it has placed thousands of places beside major roads where travelers can stop without opening their wallets. After becoming used to that freedom, visitors may return home with a surprisingly specific demand. Every long highway should come with a clean restroom, an open parking space, and a government-approved place to eat a sandwich brought from home. America has made resting feel like part of the journey rather than another item on the receipt. The surprising thing about America may not be how much it offers, but how often generosity appears in ordinary moments without making a speech about itself. A free refill, an open library, a clean rest stop, or a museum with no ticket can change how visitors understand this country. Which American convenience would you miss most if it disappeared tomorrow? Share your answer below and subscribe to the channel for more stories revealing the America people rarely see from afar.